Hello, welcome back to the Breaking News Update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you're watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a lot of big news I'd like to brief you all on today. So today's date is April 4th, 2025, and it's Friday. Hope you guys are all ready for your weekend. Just a quick update about me before we jump into the news. Just want to let you guys know that starting tomorrow on April 5th, I will not be here. I will be on vacation for the next week, and I will be returning on April 14th. Okay, so for a little bit over a week, I will be gone, but I will put out some community posts here on YouTube throughout the duration of my vacation and let you guys know how I'm doing. So you should see some updates from me, but there will be no news alerts during that time, okay? So just to let you guys know, and also quick update about my health, I'm doing a lot better. I saw a doctor yesterday. I've gotten some medication over the last few days as well about my stomach, and things are doing a lot better. And so far, with a lot of tests that I've been taking, looks like things are looking okay? So don't worry about me. Looks like health-wise, I am looking okay. So thank you guys so much for your patience, especially yesterday since I was not here. So let's go ahead and jump into the news, guys. We're going to start off with this very big story coming out from this war. Ukraine's allies accuse Putin of delaying ceasefire talks to end the war. You can see here on your screen. The UK and French foreign ministers on Friday accused Vladimir Putin of dragging his feet in ceasefire talks aimed at halting Moscow's all-out invasion of Ukraine and demanded a swift response. So these were the foreign ministers of the UK and also France. We have David Lammy there on the left, and on the right side, Jean-Noel Barrot, I think is how you pronounce his name. So they were basically accusing Russia today at a NATO meeting in Brussels, pretty much stating that Russia's just delaying this. Putin is not serious about ending this war. And we had some major attacks inside of Ukraine last night, so also indicating that Russia's not ready to end this war. I mean, they're just killing lots of civilians inside of Ukraine recently. I've got some video footage coming out from multiple attacks inside of Ukraine. We also have U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He came out today in a major statement at that NATO meeting as well, pretty much saying that the U.S. is not going to be playing games here much longer. They're probably going to start taking some action, I would think, maybe in the next few weeks. We'll see what happens here. So far, the U.S. has been very slow to react to Russia, as many of us know that Russia doesn't appear to be ready to end this war. But maybe here very soon, the U.S. might get fed up and sick and tired of this, and they might actually start taking some action, maybe start putting sanctions onto Russia. We'll see what happens here. Then also a report that we're going to go over that Russia's building a new naval vessel. So we'll talk about that also. Then also lots of other big reports coming out from this war from today. I also have a few updates from yesterday that I think are important to share with you guys in case you're not aware of it. So let's go ahead and dive into the news, guys. We're going to jump on over here to X with Naval. Putin accused of stalling ceasefire as UK, France demand swift response. Britain and France accused Putin of dragging his feet in ceasefire talks after a Russian drone strike on Kharkiv killed 5 civilians and injured 32. Yeah, we had like a residential building being hit over there, burned to the ground, and lots of civilians being injured and killed in this attack last night. I'll show you guys some videos and pictures here in just a moment. It says here UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy, French counterpart Jean-Noel Barrot, called for urgent action from Moscow, saying Russia has effectively rejected a 30-day truce proposal. Ukraine accepted ceasefire terms weeks ago. NATO allies now say it's Russia that must answer. Meanwhile, Moscow's preparing a new ground offensive along a 1,000-kilometer front line to gain leverage. Russia now has 600,000 troops in Ukraine, nearly double its 2022 invasion force. General Cavoli warned Russia's replenishing losses rapidly, set to produce 250,000 artillery shells monthly, more than the U.S. and Europe combined. Okay, so as we can see, based on a lot of this information, it doesn't look like Russia's ready to end this war, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been able to see that by now. And, Ukraine, what was it, like a month ago or so, already agreed to a 30-day truce with Russia, but Russia's basically coming out and dragging their feet for the most part, not willing to end this war anytime soon. And in a lot of times, appears that they're purposely delaying talks with Ukraine and trying to come out with major demands that they know Ukraine will never accept, right? So we'll move on to another update now from Anton Gerashenko. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the Russians know our position in terms of wanting to end the war. We will know from their answers very soon whether they are serious about proceeding with real peace or whether this is a delay tactic. If it's a delay tactic, The president's not interested in that. If this is dragging things out, President Trump's not going to fall into the trap of endless negotiations about negotiations. Journalists said the Russians are prepared to start another military campaign. Rubio responded, well, then we'll know that they're not interested in peace. The journalist said, at this very moment, they're targeting energy sites. Rubio said, targeting what? The journalist responded, energy sites in Ukraine. Rubio responded, well, again, that means they're violating the ceasefire. That's not a good sign. If we have a true ceasefire, which is what we want it to be, a complete ceasefire, nothing should be blowing up. But the Russians didn't agree to that. They wanted a partial. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys this clip. This is Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, speaking at the NATO meeting in Brussels today of foreign ministers. Take a look at this.
The thing I would point to you is this. We're going to wait and see. The Russians know our position in terms of wanting to end the war, and we will know from their answers very soon whether they are serious about proceeding with real peace or whether this is a delay tactic. It's a delay tactic. The president's not interested in that. If this is dragging things out, President Trump's not going to fall into the trap of endless negotiations about negotiations. We will know soon enough whether or not Russia's serious about peace. If they are, that'll be great. Then we can move towards peace. If they're not, then we'll have to reevaluate where we stand and what we do moving forward about it. This is about actions. If you're interested in peace, you stop fighting. And you lay out the conditions by which you're willing to end a war. And they have to be reasonable conditions, right? Not crazy stuff. If you're not interested in peace, then you sort of drag it out and you come up with excuses and you pull it. And we know that. And we're not going to get pulled into that.
The Russians they are preparing to start another military campaign.
Well, then we'll know they're not interested in peace.
And at this very moment, they're targeting energy sites. Can I get a reaction to that?
Targeting what? I'm sorry?
Energy sites in Ukraine.
Well, again, I get that means they're violating the ceasefire. That's not a good sign. Okay, if we have a true ceasefire, which is what we wanted, a complete ceasefire, nothing should be blowing up. But the Russians didn't agree to that. They wanted a partial.
All right, so it looks like the U.S. is starting to get pretty desperate in trying to end this war, and now we've got Marco Rubio coming out stating that looks highly likely that Russia is not ready to end this war. I mean, we're seeing them getting ready to start up this new military campaign. I reported that to you guys earlier this week, that Russia was preparing new offensives along the front line, especially in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions. So, imagine if Russia's preparing these new offensives, why would they do that if they're preparing for peace? So clearly, it's very obvious that Russia's not preparing to end this war, okay? So now we'll move on to Anton Gerashenko. Satellite images show that Russia is racing to build a vessel that dwarfs the Moskva missile cruiser, the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet destroyed by Ukraine in the early days of the war, Newsweek reports. Images show that progress Russia is making on one of its two Project 23900 Ivan Rogov-class amphibious assault ships. Reportedly, these vessels are capable of carrying up to 90 pieces of military equipment, including 15 helicopters. Based on recent satellite imagery, the vessel will be about 220 meters in length and 40 meters wide. The Ivan Rogov-class vessel is reported to be much larger, suggesting Moscow aims to restore its naval credibility amid a string of losses suffered by a Black Sea Fleet in the war, the publication says. Okay, so it looks like Russia's working on a new naval ship over here. We can see it right here in the middle being worked on. There's that picture, and here's one more. So is Russia trying to build back their naval fleet? I mean, they've been losing a lot of their ships, and this is the reason why also, what was it, like late last year or so, or middle of last year, Russia started to pull away a lot of their Black Sea Fleet away from like Crimea because they were getting attacked so much by Ukraine's naval drones. So it looks like Russia is working on this new vessel. Just wanted to give you guys some update on that. And I think this is coming out of Kerch, says here, so down near like Crimea, near the Kerch Bridge, probably they're working on this as Leaf Shipyard. I think that's on the eastern side of Crimea where they're producing this thing right now. Okay, so now for more translated. Reports say Ukrainian fighters regained control of the Sudzha border crossing during a counterattack, reclaiming a key strategic point in Russia's Kursk region previously seized by Russian forces. Okay, so the Sudzha border checkpoint right outside the city of Sudzha that Ukraine supposedly had to pull out of recently after Russia launched a counterattack. Now a drone caught an actual Ukrainian flag on top of this Sudzha checkpoint. So I'm not sure if Ukraine pushed back in over here, but it looks like they're still operating in the Kursk region. And if they've gotten very close to Sudzha, could they retake and capture the town of Sudzha again? I think it could be likely. And we haven't heard of Ukraine pulling out completely yet. So it looks like they're still fighting very hard over here. So that's some new evidence that they could be on the borders of Sudzha right now. Now from Jurgen Nonnet, During the night, unknown drones reminded Putin of his promise to Trump to uphold a ceasefire, and during their visit to the Lipetsk region in Moscow, they also attacked the military airfield, according to Russian media. So I'm going to show you guys this clip here of a drone being shot down over the Lipetsk region of Russia last night. There was multiple regions being targeted, but I know Lipetsk was one of the major ones. It's kind of getting closer to like the Moscow region, north of Ukraine. And I think there was a military airfield supposedly being targeted over here, and lots of drones entering this area. So you're going to see a drone getting shot down over here. Take a look at this.
Хотя не видно.
Видно.
О,
Прям близко к нам сейчас очень будет.
да. А где? О, бам.
Ёбнуло.
Я заснял.
Опять трусливо летят, ёбаная.
Вообще тут суета конкретная происходит. Вон что-то там загорелось вдали.
All right, we'll go ahead and pause it there. So it looks like a Panzer S-1 air defense system shooting down a Ukrainian drone coming into this area. So we don't have any actual concrete reports or evidence of anything actually being attacked last night, but there was some explosions happening inside of Russia. Ukraine did launch some drones over there. But now we have this update from Max 24. In Kharkiv, there are already 3 dead and 32 injured. Dnipro, 3 injured, a house on fire. Administrative buildings were damaged. Kiev region, there is 1 injured, a car dealership on fire. So these were the attacks inside of Ukraine last night. Looks like we had this building completely burning to the ground due to drone attacks. And we know the Russians are using new tactics now. They're starting to gather up a lot of drones in one area, and then they'll launch them and they'll fly very high and then basically dive bomb. Instead of flying at one altitude, they usually fly very high, and then once they get close to their target, they come at almost a 90-degree angle, striking their targets inside of Ukraine. And they're doing this in swarms as well at the same time, which makes it very difficult for Ukraine to shoot all these down. So this was damage inside of Ukraine last night. Here's a video from Kate from Kharkiv. Kharkiv, following the Russian drone strike on the city, apartment building is on fire. There are 12 injured so far. So this is video footage showing an apartment building completely engulfed in flames in the city of Kharkiv, in the Kharkiv region last night. This is in northeastern Ukraine, and Kharkiv has been getting hammered so much recently by Russian drones. This is more evidence of that right there. We had a residential building on fire. Now from the Ukrainian Review, consequences of Russian UAV attack on Brovary district of Kiev region. Okay, so even the Kiev region being attacked last night, according to OVA. And it says here a service station, gas station, and 2 administrative buildings were damaged. A car dealership and cars in the parking lot were on fire. 6 cars and 2 trucks were destroyed by fire. 12 cars, bus and 8 trucks were damaged. Okay, so more damage inside of Ukraine, this time in the Kiev region. So you can see a lot of cars here that were destroyed. We've got firefighter crews showing up to put out all these cars that were on fire. Lots and lots of damage inside of Ukraine last night. And I think there was somewhere around close to 80 drones, I believe. We'll go over that report here in just a moment. But about 80 drones going into Ukraine last night. Now from Nexta, exclusive from Dnipro, sent to Nexta during tonight's attack. Sirens, air defense, explosions. That's what readiness for peace looks like, according to Putin and Trump. While Trump says both sides are ready for a deal, Dnipro is under fire again. Same readiness as Trump's 2 old vampires, writes our follower as missiles hit his city. This is what Ukraine hears instead of diplomacy. So you're going to hear a lot of gunfire, drones coming into the area here in this video. And so yesterday Trump came out. He told reporters that Zelensky and Putin are allegedly ready for a ceasefire. But, look at this video. It doesn't look like Russia's ready for one. Take a look. All right, so we can see here in this video, we've got Russian drones entering into Ukraine and Ukrainian air defense teams trying to shoot these things down. You can see a lot of gunfire there in the background. So this is the example of, Russia showing that they want peace. Clearly they do not, right? So what we're seeing here in this video. So now we'll move on to another one from Nexta again. Meanwhile, just hours ago, Russia flattened a residential building in Kharkiv. 2 killed, 29 injured, several still trapped under the rubble. Is this what readiness for peace looks like? Okay, and I'm actually going to show you guys the clip here in just a minute of Donald Trump basically stating that that Putin and Zelensky are ready for peace. Okay, so take a look at this also. All right, so as we can see, Ukraine got hit very hard last night. We've got lots of residential buildings with damage here. Looks like there was a fire that broke out on that one. Lots of cars destroyed, debris everywhere. So Ukraine getting hit very, very hard last night from Russian drones. Now take a look at this from Naval reports. Trump claims Zelensky and Putin are ready for a deal. Another empty talk for the cameras, just like his promise to end the war in 24 hours, or the so-called minerals deal that was almost signed countless times. Donald, it's time to wake up from La La Land and stop fooling everyone, okay? So this actually came out yesterday, but because I wasn't here, I want to show you guys this. So just a quick clip of Trump stating he believes that this war is coming to an end soon, and Zelensky and Putin will agree to some sort of ceasefire. Take a look.
Have you talked to Zelensky recently?
Not too long ago, yeah.
How did that go?
Good. I think he's ready to make a deal.
No progress, though, other than that?
I think a lot of progress. No, he's ready to make a deal, and I think that President Putin is ready to make a deal, and then you'll stop the killing of thousands of young people a week.
Did Kirill Dmitriev say that to your his counterparts in the U.S.? Kirill Dmitriev, the Russian negotiator that's in Washington right now?
I don't talk about specific people. I just will tell you that there's a lot of good conversation going on about Ukraine, Russia.
Have you talked to Zelensky recently?
All right, so let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that Donald Trump is telling the truth here? I mean, he's come out many times stating that, you know, Ukraine's ready to sign a minerals deal and then things fall apart. Russia's ready for peace, and then they come out and basically reject peace, and all they want is a partial ceasefire that they're barely even agreeing to. You guys can let me know what you think on that. Now from Bliskovka, the Russian Foreign Ministry has prepared another fake about Ukraine's alleged violation of the energy truce. General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine reported. The General Staff once again noted that the Defense Forces strictly adhere to the agreements and do not strike energy facilities both on the territory of the Russian Federation and within the temporarily occupied regions. At the same time, Russia itself has repeatedly violated the rules by attacking energy facilities in the Kharkiv, Poltava, Dnipropetrovsk, and Kherson regions. Okay, so now a report coming out from Ukraine's General Staff that Russia's preparing to come out again and say that Ukraine is attacking energy sites inside of Russia, maybe, or maybe even eastern Ukraine. So far, we haven't seen any video footage or anything like that confirming that, but Russia's multiple times now has come out and accused Ukraine of doing the same, of attacking energy sites in Russia or whatever it might be, and basically violating this energy truce. Now from Max 24, Ukrainian drones are now being used to conduct minor cyber operations against Russia, according to Forbes today. According to Russian video, the variants of malware on the Ukrainian drones are burning out to the USB ports, preventing reflashing or hijacking the repurposed FPV and revealing the operator location. Okay, so take a look at this report here. Russia's capture Ukrainian drones which infect their systems with malware. Okay, so man, Ukraine is just doing all kinds of crazy stuff with these FPV drones. You can see this Ukrainian soldier holding this FPV drone in his hands. I mean, they just do all kinds of crazy things, and now they're starting to be able to use them for cyber attack operations now, and they can apparently allegedly install malware and affect other Russian drone units that are using these FPV drones as well. So Ukraine's getting very sophisticated with their drone use, and we're continuously seeing that every day. Now from the Ukrainian Review, oil and gas revenues of the Russian budget in March 2025 fell by 17% compared to March 2024. In March 2024, just a year ago, 1.307 trillion rubles. In March 2025, 1.080 trillion rubles. Okay, so what we're seeing is Russia's budget for their oil and gas revenues completely falling off a cliff. And I'm sure that a lot of that has to do with all these strikes and all these oil refineries. I mean, Ukraine's just been absolutely smashing Russia's oil and gas industry over the last, 6 to 8 months, especially. It wasn't up until we got this energy surge just, a couple weeks ago that we're starting to see a halt on strikes. But if that happens to fall apart, we're probably going to see their oil and gas industry get smashed even more if this war continues and does not come to an end. So pretty crazy news there. Now from Jurgen on it, oil prices are falling rapidly. Brent crude has fallen below $67 per barrel, while Russian crude is trading between $55 and $57, according to exchange data. The last time prices were this low was in December 2021. The reasons for the decline are the imposition of tariffs by Trump and an oversupply in the market. Okay, so Brent oil futures just really falling recently. A lot of this due to the tariffs that Donald Trump has put out here over the last couple days on pretty much every single ally to the United States and all kinds of countries across the world just being hit with massive tariffs. So we're seeing the U.S. stock market heavily declining over the last couple days, and also oil futures just completely collapsing. I think last I saw it was around $62 today. That might change. It looks like it was starting to come back up after it dropped to around maybe $61. But at one point, Jurgen Otta here caught it at 65, almost at 66. But you can see it was like a 6% decline. Okay, so pretty much all the futures across the board, when it comes to stocks and commodities, just everything collapsing right now due to the tariffs that Trump is putting on all these nations around the world. And now it's starting to turn into a major trade war. I think China came out today and announced like 30 or 34% increase in tariffs for any imports from the United States. So this is going to get pretty crazy over here, guys. We're going to be seeing lots of fluctuations within economies around the world, and hopefully we don't go into like some sort of global recession or depression because of it. It's definitely not looking good. Also for Max 24 Russian market, okay, so even the stock market in Russia today completely collapsing as well. This is exactly how the stock market looks inside the US today also. So Russia's stock market being heavily affected. Now for Max 24, Trump's inner circle is advising him not to talk to Putin on the phone until he commits to a complete ceasefire in Ukraine, according to NBC News. Next phone call between Trump and Putin could happen before or after the weekend, according to Politico. Okay, so we've been hearing recently also that Trump and Putin might hold another phone call again, but apparently some of his top advisors are telling him not to hold a phone call with Vladimir Putin until he commits to some sort of ceasefire with this war in Ukraine. Okay. Now for Max 24, the flow of U.S. weapons and intelligence to Ukraine will continue despite the fact that the American side will not participate in the Ramstein meeting in Brussels, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte reported today. So yeah, we heard, I think it was yesterday, the day before, that Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Defense Secretary, is not going to be attending the Ramstein meeting that's coming up here very soon. And could that mean that the U.S. is going to start pulling away support for Ukraine? Maybe it could, but according to Mark Rutte, he's stating that weapon flows from the U.S. are not going to stop. And actually what we've seen recently over the last few weeks is weapon flows are actually increasing from the United States. Okay, so just a little reassurance there that it looks like weapon supplies from the U.S. aren't going to halt just because the U.S. will not be at that meeting here coming up very soon. Now for military news UA, Putin is no longer able to end the war even if he wanted to. According to Foreign Policy, the war has become the basis of the Russian economy and society. The onset of peace would cause the collapse of the entire system, analysts write. Okay, so that's something interesting to note. Okay, so what we heard, let's say, I think like beginning of last year, we heard that Russia's economy was turning into a war economy. Okay, they've converted a large majority of their economy to be prepared for war. So so imagine if this war were to abruptly come to an end. Is Russia prepared to return to civilian style economy? Maybe, maybe not. And maybe this is why also Russia is not prepared to end this war. They've converted so much of their economy to be prepared to, continue this war for a long period of time. And also, Andrei Belousov has been appointed as the new defense minister, and he's more of an economist versus like a military guy. He doesn't really have a whole lot of military experience, and that was something that was interesting when Sergei Shoigu got replaced by him at one point last year. We reported that, and considering that he's more of an economist, he was pretty much setting up Russia's economy to be prepared for a long war with Ukraine and potentially maybe even with NATO. So is this another major sign that maybe if this war comes to an end with Ukraine, could we now see a war with NATO, or at least European NATO countries? Okay, things could definitely get crazy over here. Just want to give you that update there. Now from next, Russia has begun transferring North Korean heavy artillery systems, Koksan, to Crimea, which could indicate the deployment of DPRK troops to the occupied peninsula, ZDF reports. Okay, so could we see North Korean soldiers in Crimea now? We know that Ukraine eventually wants to try to take back Crimea, so are they going to start sending a lot of these troops that were probably in the Kursk region at some point now on over to Crimea? Are they going to start helping out with southern operations, maybe in the Zaporizhzhia region? We've been hearing that Russia's not only going to launch offensives in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions up in northeastern Ukraine, but also potentially in the Zaporizhzhia region. This is in the southern regions of Ukraine. So looks like maybe we could start hearing that North Korean soldiers are now in the southern portions of Ukraine and firing these Koksan artillery guns. Okay, so an update about North Korea there. Now from Anton Gerashenko, Russia's preparing for an offensive on several fronts and plans to increase the number of soldiers by 150,000 this year, according to Pavlo Palisa, deputy head of the Office of the President of Ukraine. Their formation is ongoing. The Russians have no problems with the recruiting personnel now, However, it must be understood that all these units cannot be put in action at the same time. Therefore, it is expected that in the near future, they will try to exert maximum pressure in those areas where it is possible, Palisa said. According to him, the buildup of pressure on the front line is taking place against the backdrop of consultations on a ceasefire in which the Russians are not very interested, except perhaps in issues related to the maritime sector where the ceasefire is more relevant to them. As for the ground, it is obvious that they continue to advance gradually, trying to push through certain areas of the front, the presidential administration representative noted. According to him, these are partial tactical successes which they achieve with very heavy losses. But if they can afford it, they will continue to stall. The enemy has some successes in certain areas on the front line, but we are also counterattacking and achieving results, the deputy head of the presidential office said. So, more signs that Russia's preparing this major offensive. It's something I've been showing you guys a lot over the last week. So potentially up to 150,000 more soldiers that Russia will increase into their military. And I think they've got like 800,000 soldiers or something like that, or at least 600,000 inside of Ukraine right now. So this could definitely give them the edge and to launch another major offensive if they start building up their army even more. And Ukraine could continue to struggle to hold Russia back in a lot of these areas, as right now that's already seeming to be very difficult on the front line for Ukraine. So we'll see how things turn out in regards to that. Now from the Ukrainian Review, Russia has increased the number of drone strikes by almost 50% since the start of peace talks, according to the Telegraph. Okay, so drone attacks increasing heavily since the start of peace talks. So that means to me that Russia, again, is not ready for ending this war. If they're going to be continuing their drone strikes on Ukraine, which lately we've been seeing massive amounts of damage just from drones alone, not even including missiles. We've been seeing more drone attacks inside of Ukraine versus missile attacks anyway, and lots of homes being destroyed. So yeah, like I said, guys, Russia is not ready to end this war anytime soon. And maybe that whole talk with foreign policy, that news outlet stating that Russia's not ready to end this war because they basically can't, their economy would collapse. Maybe that happens to be true, and this is why we're seeing these negotiations stalling and will probably eventually completely end. Now from next, Putin's special envoy just made big claims after a trip to Washington. Kirill Dmitriev, head of Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, RDIF, says U.S. companies are ready to enter the Russian market after EU firms left. Moscow and Washington are discussing restoring direct flights. There's been real progress in ceasefire talks on Ukraine, new peace talks, or just breaking sanctions again. Okay, so we also reported earlier this week that Kirill Dmitriev, head of Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, was supposed to be heading to Washington. He's going to meet with I think it was Steve Witkoff, the special envoy from the Middle East that's supposed to be directly negotiating with Russia. And reportedly, they're meeting to talk about the war in Ukraine and also to better the relations between the United States and Russia. These were some of the statements coming out. And this one right here that says Moscow and Washington are discussing restoring direct flights. We had U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio come out and answer that question today, and he came out saying that that is not true, that he hasn't heard anything about that, that they're not planning on discussing restoring any direct flights from Russia and the United States. He's basically saying that they can't do that right now due to sanctions anyway. So it looks like that's not going to happen anytime soon. But these were some of the statements coming out regarding Kirill Dmitriev. Now, for more translated, the Ukrainian delegation will arrive in the United States this week or early next week to discuss the agreement between the countries on minerals, according to Scott Bessent, who is the U.S. Treasury Secretary. Okay, so once again, we're hearing more about the minerals agreement. Looks like they're going to try to meet again and talk about this. Will there be a signing of this agreement? Maybe, maybe not. It's definitely been delayed for weeks now. All right, now from the Ukrainian Review, Russia is still counting on Trump to deliver an acceptable peace deal in Ukraine. Though it's prepared to continue the war if talks fail, according to people in Moscow familiar with the matter. According to Bloomberg, okay, so Bloomberg reporting that Russia's counting on Trump to deliver an acceptable peace deal in Ukraine. Okay, so I guess they're hoping that Trump is going to be able to end this war, and obviously Vladimir Putin and Russia have some major demands that they want met in order to end this war, and Ukraine has their own demands. So I mean, things are definitely deadlocked right now. I really don't see Ukraine and Russia agreeing to a peace deal just because of their major demands on either side. They're completely conflicting. So we'll really have to see how things play out. Maybe we'll be able to see this war coming to an end, maybe not, but I'm thinking highly likely it will not end right now, not under the current conditions. Some things are going to have to majorly change in order for that to happen, whether it be on Russia's side or Ukraine's side. Now for Max 24, in the coming weeks, maybe months, it will be possible to pressure the Russians into a ceasefire, says Zelensky. Now, this could mean a lot of different things. This came out yesterday. This was Zelensky stating this during an interview. And I'm wondering what he means by that. A lot of things can happen here. Ukraine is still working on producing lots of their own ballistic missiles and long-range missiles that could potentially strike Moscow. Could that pressure Russia into ending this war if all of a sudden Ukraine started heavily striking Moscow with missiles? Maybe it could, maybe it won't. But there's a lot of different scenarios that could really unfold here. Maybe the U.S. could start putting major sanctions onto Russia here very soon and start pressuring them to end the war. We don't really know what's going to happen, but Zelensky believes that it will be possible at some point in the near future to basically force Russia to end this war, okay? So that was an update coming out yesterday. Now, a couple more updates for you guys before we get you out of here. From Tim White, during the night attack, 18% of Russia's drones evaded air defense. Ukraine shot down 42 out of 78 UAVs, while another 22 were decoys or stopped by electronic warfare. Kiev, Kharkiv, Dnipro, Zaporizhzhia were all hit. Okay, guys, so 78 UAV drones from Russia's side going into Ukraine last night. Here's that little diagram showing 42 of them being shot down and several being suppressed by electronic warfare. Also, at the same time, now our final update of the day from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of April 4th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. All right, guys, our final update of the day. Russia's losses as of April 4th, 1,380 troops, 30 AFVs, 66 vehicles and fuel tanks, 7 tanks, 38 artillery systems, 72 UAVs, and 1 MLRS. And it looks like that is it. Nothing on this side over here. So pretty average numbers that we're seeing. For the most part, I'm not really seeing any major fluctuations in losses on Russia's side. I mean, probably right here, vehicles and fuel tanks are a little bit lower than what we have been seeing. And the last time I reported to you guys 2 days ago, this number was around 68, okay? So we're seeing a lot less vehicles being destroyed. Maybe Russia's running out a lot of vehicles. Who really knows here? We've been seeing them using donkeys and all kinds of makeshift cars from the 1950s that they can use to transport equipment to the front line. We know that, repeatedly every day they're losing so many vehicles and fuel tanks. So maybe they're just short supplied right now. But lots of huge updates coming out from this war, guys. I want to thank you all very much for tuning in for this update today. And just another quick reminder, again, tomorrow I'm not going to be here all the way up until the 14th, which I will return on that day. as I will be on vacation. So I want to thank you guys all so much for supporting the channel and for being here today for this update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.